Welcome back. So today we are talking about one of Susan's favorite topics, negotiating an offer.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing to understand first is that everything is negotiable.
Right.
There's almost always more money on the table. And very often it goes to the man because he's the one who asks. So if you are a woman, as most people in our audience are, you need to know that you need to ask. In fact, I really believe that one of the factors contributing to the gender pay gap is not, it's not just male domination, discrimination, bias, whatever.
These are all factors.
They are factors, perhaps, but a big factor is women just don't ask for it. I know this because when I managed teams of women and men, the men asked and the women didn't.
Well, you yourself have said
yes,
that
I learned once very early on that I didn't ask for something. I was tremendously underpaid, and one of my male colleagues discovered it and told me it and helped me write it. So that never happened again. But yes, a really good thing to remind me of.
Yes.
So everything's negotiable. Go into any conversation about compensation knowing that. Yeah. The other thing I want them to know is that you will not be looked down upon for asking. I think a lot of women say, I'm afraid to ask. There have been studies done. I just read one the other day.
Well, it feels uncomfortable to ask. And already women, we see this. We see this with the students we work with. We see this in our clients. We see this in ourselves.
Yep.
They don't want to feel like I'm burdening you or I am being too ambitious.
Right.
And we
but
say no
men
to that.
never worry about that.
Yes, exactly. We say no to all
If
of
I'm an employer, I want you to be ambitious.
Yes, absolutely.
I want you to ask for more. If I don't have it, I'll tell you.
Yes.
But we do know that some women are afraid to ask because they're afraid it will be a bad look for them. That maybe they'll somehow. I had a client once say she thought the offer would be rescinded if she asked for more.
Yes. Or I'm being too demonstrative in some way, right? Or
too pushy.
Too pushy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so getting that off the table.
Yes.
When you consider an offer, you will always say this when someone makes you an offer. Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm thrilled that you think I'm the right fit for the company, and I will be a great addition to the team. Once I get the offer in writing, I will review it and get back to you within 24 hours.
Right.
So there are two things happening there. Number one, you're getting something in writing. Number two, you're giving yourself time to review it.
Yes.
So we have seen many times that an offer will be made verbally that is not backed up in writing.
Yes.
And now you've already accepted the offer and it can become very uncomfortable at that point. So a couple of factors here, and I know one of Kelly's personal friends worked with me and we had a little bit of an incident because it was taking so long to get the offer in writing. So, and sometimes they don't have time to wait for legal to get back. So what you can do in lieu of getting that offer in writing, I would say probably 85-90% of the time the employer is available and willing and able to give you an offer in writing. But if not, you can just take notes, write it back to them in an email saying, I want to review. These are the tenets of the offer.
Yep.
And then I'll be reviewing these and getting back to you in 24 hours.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So the getting back
writing.
Yeah. Getting it in writing. Sometimes you have to write it yourself. Okay. Then you want to look at the offer. So you already teed this up.
I think that people have this misconception that an offer that you're negotiating for is only money.
Right.
There is so much more to an offer that you really need to take the time to go educate yourself about what is actually there. So so that's taking a look at the total package
and taking a look at it through the lens of what's important to me.
Yes.
So,
and even defining that, right? Sitting down with your spouse potentially, or any of the, stakeholders. It's really thinking about what are our needs and being clear about that.
So that's a really good point, like getting them down on paper. So let's talk about the different things that contribute to an offer. Of course, you've got your base pay,
right?
Your salary.
Yep.
In many organizations, there's some type of incentive pay.
Yep.
So if you're in a sales or account leadership role, it might be a commission. It might be performance bonuses. It might be bonuses based on company performance. If you're a more middle to upper level management, you might be getting some type of equity contribution or equity distribution. You might, if it's a small company, have an equity stake in the company. So these are all different ways of being paid. Then aside from just cash payment, there's your benefits. And it's not just your health benefits, it's your retirement.
Yep.
Most of them are defined contribution plans now. We don't really see too many defined benefit or pension plans. But in a DC plan, is your employer contributing? And at what percentage point? Health benefits, of course, but do the health benefits cover things like vision?
Right.
Dental?
Dental.
I mean, a lot of times those things aren't covered. do I have a paid family leave program? If you're young and you might be having a family, that might be really important to you.
Yep. Or if you have elder care that you
Exactly
need as well.
Right. So some companies just have care stipends, PTO or paid time off. Many companies now just have one lump where you get 20 PTO days. Make sure you look at those because those include not just vacations, but any sick days. Right. So, if you have 3 children, you're going to have at least a couple of sick days, maybe 2 for one of them and 1 for each of them. That could be 5. That could be a quarter of your PTO right away. So you really want to look at these things in an educated and discerning fashion. Other things like flexible work.
Right.
You may be joining a company where the expectation is you work full-time in the office every day. That may not be something that's suitable for you. Maybe negotiating for more flexibility is something that's important to you.
And to this point,
Yeah.
that conversation happens when you have an offer that's
Yes.
given to you.
Yeah, you're not talking about when you want to work on what schedule before you've been offered the job. Good point. Other things, depending on regionally where you work. In some places, it's very expensive to get to work. If you're taking the Caltrain in California, that can be expensive. Are they going to pay for your fare?
Yes. Yep.
If you work in New York City and you're driving, you could be spending $500 a month on parking. Do they give you parking? Another thing that I like to negotiate, I just worked with a client right now, a very senior woman working in pharma, and she negotiated for a better title.
Yes.
So
that's actually more common now. I hear a lot of that. And because there was a bit of looseness with I don't know if it was like a way that people were coming at, corporations were coming at it with the titles.
They're flatter now anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
And so in many cases they don't matter. They matter a lot less if you're staying somewhere.
Right.
But if you're looking at this job as maybe a stepping stone, or you're just protecting yourself for your future opportunity, that title might mean a lot. In her case, she was at a blue chip company as a director, which in most companies would be like an SVP. I mean, it was a huge, like a Fortune 50 company, or maybe a Fortune 20. And she was going to a smaller company within the same industry, and they were still going to call her a director. And she was like, oh, no. And they're like, well, we don't really care about titles here. She goes, I do. So that was one of the things she negotiated for. So thinking about all the different variables that matter to you. And when you make a counter offer, which you always do, you're never going to take the offer on face value. Even if it's more money than you've ever earned, you're going to ask for more. They don't need to know that you've not made more than that. So the base pay is one thing you negotiate for, and then something else. That's what I like to say.
So Susan, I think a lot of our audience really have question around, well, how do I even figure out like what's competitive in terms of what is being offered to me for a salary nowadays? So what are some resources that people can use to get that information? So
you can use Glassdoor is a good one. These are sites that you can have paid or free subscriptions. Salary.com is another one. You can just go on to do a Google search and look for chat rooms where people are talking about an employer. If you know someone in the organization, you can ask. It's not uncommon to ask what the salary band is for the position. If it's a public company or a larger company, they will have published salary bands, maybe not published down to the employee level, but available in HR. So you could say, can you please let me know where this falls in the salary range? Or just what the salary range is for this position. And if the salary range is 75 to 110 and you're being offered 76, you know that you're on the lower end. You have to always think about, though, I mean, if you're dealing with a savvy hiring manager like me, I'm not going to tell you that. Right. So no,
oftentimes, so these are published, like
it depends on the company. That's right. There's a lot more pay transparency now. But regardless, you're going to ask for more. You're going to ask for more money, and you're going to ask for a little bit more of something else. So in terms of how far to go, if your research suggests that you're being paid considerably lower, let's say the range is what I just said, 75 to 110, you've been offered 75. You might ask for more than 20%, particularly if you're coming into the job with having checked all the boxes. And these are the things that you have to consider. If you're coming into the job and you know the job is a stretch for you, you're not going to be asking for 40% more. Conversely, if you're coming into the job and you know that they are really lucky to get you, but you're only taking this job because it meets all of your other requirements and it's an easy commute or it's next to your kid's school or whatever, then you're going to ask for as much as possible, even beyond the range. So a lot of this, to your point, requires you being educated. but you're always going to be asking for something more.
Yeah. I love how you explain when they give the band and it's 75 to 110 and they're asking you.
Yeah. And you always say, I'd be very comfortable at the highest end of that range or the higher end of that range if it's, if you're a little less qualified.
Yeah. I think we're going to do a video. Yep. I'm specifically answering that question.
How much do you want to make question, which is separate. So you've got your 24 hours, you reviewed it very carefully. I'm not talking with a pencil and you're writing down, you're looking at all the options, and you're going to go in and you're going to negotiate once.
Yeah.
You're going to tell them, I'll practice it with you. Okay. Kelly, thank you so much for the offer. I am beyond thrilled. I mean, I'm glad that you saw that I was a good fit for this team, and I certainly saw that the team is a good fit for me. And thank you so much for the offer. And I'd just like to review a couple of things based on my research, based on the skill set that I believe I'm bringing in terms of the range, or in light of the range. I believe we should, let's say she offered me 76. I think we should be looking at something closer to 90. Yep. That's what I'd be looking for. And I'd like to propose that right now you're looking at a 4-1 hybrid schedule. I'd really prefer doing a 3-2. Yeah. I'm used to working remotely. I find I'm more productive working remotely. Yeah. So a 3-2 would work well, and I'd be very flexible on what that second day would be. Okay. So let's talk about it. What do you think?
Well, I definitely think you're, there are certain things that are policy. Yeah. And we have to work within certain parameters. Sure. So I'm going to have to go back and talk with HR about, what my parameters are. So I'm going to go back and talk with HR and see what kind of wiggle room I do or don't have.
Okay. Now, a couple of depending on like what I would do for me, I'd say, you know what, Kelly, that's great. I think it'd probably be easier if I just talked to HR directly. So I wanted to give you the respect of making the offer to you. I had a feeling, or my counter to you, I had a feeling that it would be an HR decision.
Yes.
That would be one way you can handle it. Another way would be, but how do you feel about it, Kelly?
Right. So,
because she could be using HR as a foil.
Well, I was just going to say, sometimes people refer to that higher authority.
It's called deferring to a higher authority. And it's something I teach when I teach salespeople to be aware of, because it's a really easy way to get out of making a decision. So by saying to her, great that you're going to talk to HR, but what do you think about it?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. If I could open my checkbook and be paying your salary, I would, because I think you're great and you're fantastic. And of course, I'm going to lobby on your behalf when I talk with them. Right. But I do know that there are certain parameters, and I might have to work with what those parameters are. Right. But I'm going to get you the most that I possibly can.
But at that point, I'm fine. I know you're going to advocate.
I'm on her side.
She's on my side. And the thing is, I wasn't really expecting 90.
Right.
I mean, you should expect them to meet you somewhere in the middle. Yep. So make your counter offer reflect that. Give yourself a little wiggle room. All right. And how do you feel about the work schedule?
As far as the work schedule goes now, we have just made an all company push for everyone back in the office, even people that were fully remote. Yeah. So, we're really holding true to that right now. So you doing this would be outside the norm of what we've just said to all of our employees. So again, that's something I'm going to have to look at and negotiate with the HR team.
So are there no people working like a 3-2 or a 2-3?
So currently right now, everyone is back and we're a 4-day work week.
Okay. Here, so I'm going to pause now. So you don't want to be the new employee who comes in and gets a 3 when everyone else has just gone from 05 to 4-1. Right. You don't want to be that person. Yep. What you want to know, though, is that other people are advocating for this. Yep. So I might just say to you, you know what, Kelly, given that, I wouldn't feel comfortable negotiating something that's outside of the scope of what's available to the regular employees. I don't think that's a good look. Yep. I would like to know that that's something that the company is looking at. Clearly, if people have gone from 5 days remote to 4 days in the office, there must be others who are advocating for a little bit more flexibility. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. That's true.
And do you feel like the company will become more flexible once they kind of tighten it, they'll loosen it again?
Yeah, I think that we know that we want our employees back in the office, right? And that is a real push and an initiative that we're having right now. And for some people that's going to work, and for some people that's not going to work. Right. So for right now, we're really holding true to this 4-1. Yeah.
Okay. And that's just what I've done what I can. I know that it's going to be 4-1. I also know that if it's true, if it's gone down the way she said it did, they're going to have to just loosen the belt a little bit because they've tightened it too much. But if she personally had an issue with it, like if it wasn't a company policy, then another way to handle that is to say, you know what, I understand you don't know me yet. You don't know how I work. Would you be comfortable doing this? Let's get the first 90 days under my belt. Let's see how I work. And then reevaluating this in 90 days because I really know that a 3-2 would work better for me. That's a way to kind of at least hedge the bet for later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of just drop it that like this isn't where this conversation is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now remember, I went in I was open and transparent. This is what I'm looking for. I wasn't holding back. Nobody likes, I want this, and then they agree to it. But then I want this too, and then they agree with it. The only caveat here is if Kelly says, Susan, 76 is it. Then what I recommend is this. I appreciate your candor, Kelly. I'm disappointed because I do feel based on my research that is lower than what would commonly be offered for the role. And then add to the fact that I'm bringing some pretty significant skill sets here. But I understand your hands are tied. What can we do looking at some other areas to just help me earn extra in other ways to compensate for the fact that this is on the lower end?
So we might be able to look at your bonus.
Yeah.
That's something, and just long-term incentives. That might be.
I want you to notice, and I don't have to answer it, that and you followed suit. I use the word we. I didn't make it her problem. I made it our problem. So I'm automatically, there's such power in pronouns, and I don't mean that in the politically correct way.
Yeah.
I mean, in a negotiation, there is such power because now I'm already assuming we're a team. And I'm saying, what can we do to make the money up? I have a couple of ideas. I mean, right now for me to take the Caltrain, it's going to cost me about $300 a month.
Okay.
Could you do that? Right there. Okay, now I've got a $4,000 raise. I mean, thinking creatively, but you have to do this ahead of time.
Yes.
You need to be prepared.
To pull these things out.
Exactly. You can't just do it on the fly, and you can't come back later and do it. It has to happen in that one sitting.
Yep.
Okay? That was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff, but a lot of really important information. So you might want to watch this video more than once.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is how to negotiate an offer. If you liked what you heard today, please like and subscribe, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to learn more about us and our programming, you can visit us at www.preparetolaunchu.com.
Thanks.